bird sang this song to me. There was a message in its melody, sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be Now the trees sang the song to me. He said the birds sang it to the breeze, just in case I was feeling down.
Greetings and welcome to A Sip of Inspiration. My name is Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, and I am your host for tonight's show. I want to remind the viewers at home that this is a call-in show, so get ready to call in with your questions. The number is 312-738-1845. I've always promised to bring you the best in programming, and tonight will be no different. And I know I say that every time, and you guys on the edge of your seat just wondering, what could it be now? But joining me is someone that I feel like is an old friend, because this is like the second time we've done this.
Yes.
Joining me tonight is Debra Devine, and Debra Devine is the founder and executive director of The Answer, Inc. And The Answer, Inc. is an organization that handles all of the concerns for autistic children. Mm-hmm. Debra was encouraged to start this organization because she too has an autistic child. Jason, who's absolutely handsome, is 21 years old now, and he was her encouragement to do the great things. So I want to thank you, Debra, for joining me again. I want you to tell the audience a bit about your organization and all of that, and then we can roll on with the conversation.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me, Stephanie. It's always a pleasure. As you stated, The Answer Incorporated is an organization. Actually, we're an agency now.
Okay.
That provides support and resources, education, advocacy, and recreation for parents and caregivers of persons with autism and other developmental disabilities. Because usually when a child is diagnosed with autism, it's a dual disability, be it cerebral palsy, ADD, it's always dual. So we don't want to leave anyone out, but our primary core is autism.
Now, you're a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And where are you located?
We're located in Forest Park, but we provide services for persons in Proviso Township and the entire Chicagoland area.
Oh, and how can people find out more about you after the show?
Well, you can call us at 708-296-5651, or you can email us at info@theanswerinc.org, or we also have a website at www.theanswerinc.org.
Okay, now we can talk. That we've got some little housekeeping out of the way. Autism, I've discovered recently, has been diagnosed in 150, one out of every 150 child will be diagnosed with autism. And what I wanted the people at home to know, and the parents and aunts and other caregivers, because sometimes the symptoms will be noticed by more than just the parents. What are the symptoms? When should you be concerned? What differences occur between children who will be later diagnosed as autism as opposed to those who won't be?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that question, because early detection is really the best detection. When we first started noticing different signs in Jason, and when he was about 18 months old, he was doing everything that a normal child does, the babbling, the cooing, the pulling up, and then one morning everything just stopped. So we took him to the hospital, and he wasn't saying a word. He was very lethargic. And 20 years ago, autism was really just not as publicized as it is today.
That's true.
So the doctor said, okay, your son has autism. And I said, oh, who? And so I began to read. But in answer to your question, the different signs and symptoms would be just a blank stare, constant spinning of anything, no response to a question that you might ask, echolalia, which is repeated speech.
Okay.
And you will find this in older children, because some children have reversed at 6 years old, which is very rare. But usually it's at 18 months. That's the youngest that I've heard at 18 months. But usually a mother or a caregiver can notice a sign in your child that is something different. It's just not something that's just not right. And in the younger children, they're not rolling over, and they, you look at them and they just look straight ahead, and no kind of signs of laughing or not even crying very much.
Oh, wow. Now, 21 years ago or 20 years ago, how did you research it.
Oh my
Because I
goodness.
know 20 years ago, there was just not much, and we
It
had
was
conversations
no
about it.
internet. I mean, the internet was there, but I didn't have a computer. I went to every library. I wanted to read every article. I asked every question. I went to every school because even in the schools, there weren't very many autism programs. They had every type of disability just lumped into one classroom. So Jason ended up in several different schools because he just was not getting what he needed at one particular school. So I took him to another one. I really don't want to say the name on the air. But I took him to another school and took him to another school, and then I began to have school at home. He would have school, we would have school at home. I would just go on and on with just repetitive learning, repetitive. And even now, with some things that I want Jason to learn at 21 years old, I still just drive it into him. I mean, with speech, with crossing the street, with his academics is very, very low, but he has self-help skills that's just out of this world. So I took what I knew that he was learning and grasping and just really held on to it. Because Jason cannot count change from $1, but he knows everything that's going on around him. He doesn't know danger too much, but he takes care of himself really well.
Now that's another thing is, what about danger? Because you've got a child now who can find themselves in strange situations. They're not verbal. Most of them aren't verbal. And even those that are verbal aren't necessarily fluid in their speech. So how do you protect the child?
You know what? When I find out the answer to that, I think I'll probably write a book. Because that's another program that we're rolling out with our agency, because little do people know that our children are really targeted for violence more so than anyone else, because when you first look at a child with autism, a lot of times you can't really tell that they have a disability there. They don't have any disfigurement in the face until they start doing the different things that they do with their hands or looking around in the ceiling, or some of them are verbal. Some of them are not. My son, he doesn't hold very much conversation, but he does talk when he wants something. So, I mean, a person in the street, he would definitely be targeted. So, really, it's really nothing that can be done except monitoring at all times. Always has to be monitored.
Now, what about school? Well, you mentioned homeschooling and you mentioned other schools. Are there more schools available now for children with autism than, say, 20 years ago?
Yes.
How do parents find them? What questions should they ask?
Well, first of all, after a parent gets the diagnosis that their child has autism, they should find a school that has a classroom just for autism. Don't get your child lumped up with other disabilities and, you know, the high functioning or the low functioning. Find out where your child is. And actually, if you have a child that's low functioning, you really want them around someone that's high functioning, because children learn from other children. So I would suggest that, you know, you look for a school in the community that has primarily an autism classroom, or go to an autism school, because they've opened, I think, 2 in the Chicagoland area, and there's one in Burr Ridge, there's one in Naperville. So it's several all around the Chicagoland area, opposed to when Jason got his diagnosis.
Now, what happens in a typical classroom with autistic children?
Well, you know, that's a very, very important question, because it depends on the facet of the classroom. In a low-functioning classroom, I would suppose that the teacher would concentrate more on cognitive skills, as far as ABCs, name recognition, writing, because my son really works on a lot of his writing skills, because a lot of children with autism, their gait is not very well, so their hand over pencil, they can't grasp whether to write straight and correct. So they work on a lot of those skills, and then a lot of other skills like danger, speech. Jason has speech, and then occupational therapy, and then the different therapy, speech, play, recreational, occupational, all the different therapies is within the classroom with an autistic child.
Now, because as a parent going in, observing the classroom, it's, you know, I wonder, what should I expect? And you mentioned low functioning and high functioning, and I want to talk about those. We have a caller. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello?
Hi.
How you doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. How you been doing?
You have a question for Debra?
Hi, Debra.
Hi.
Debra, can you wave at me? Hi, Debra.
Hi. What's your name?
You said, what's your name? Darnell.
Darnell. Hi, Darnell. Do you have a question?
Thank you, Darnell, for calling.
Oh.
Now, low functioning and high functioning. What characteristics are common among low functioning children with autism as opposed to high functioning? And when a parent hears those terms, how should they think about them?
Well, I think that when a parent listens to those terms, you should always know that to encourage your child to be the best that they can be, number one. Number two, low functioning children with autism, and the spectrum is so wide, it ranges from low to high functioning. High functioning children with autism is Asperger's. And Asperger's is a person that has very high functioning skills. They can write, they can read, they know danger signs, but their socialization skills are just zero. They like being alone. They isolate themselves totally. They really don't like people. They don't like to be touched or anything. A person that has low functioning autism really has to be monitored at all times, because a lot of children with autism, they self-mutilate. They bite themselves. Yeah, they bang their heads. Jason went through that as well. So we had to get him medicated, which, you know, he's on a very low dosage of medication, and I went through every type of therapy in the world before I went to medication, but I was not an advocate for medication at all. But right now I am, because, you know, I think as long as you monitor your children and they're not lethargic on medication, you know, we get a headache, we have to take an aspirin, right?
Right.
So when Jason gets agitated, he doesn't get agitated anymore, but after many years of medication modification, Jason's doing fine. So most children that are low functioning autism have to have medication or some type of structured program.
Now, how did you discourage the self-mutilation behavior?
Oh, I didn't discourage it, the medication did.
The medication did.
Yeah, the medication did. And, you know, and it got really bad at one point, and we found out not only was he self-mutilating, but he was having tiny seizures. So that's why it's very important to take your child to a psychologist and a neurologist so that they can be tested with the CT scans and all the different scans to test the brain, because it's a lot of other things going on too that we didn't know about. He was having minor seizures, and a lot of children with autism are seizure prone. Yeah.
And that could cause a self-mutilation because there's a certain amount of discomfort, pain,
I
uncertainty.
think that he, you know, I was telling my husband that I think that he just couldn't tell us that his head was hurting.
Right.
So he would bang his head, he would bite his arm, and when he would get agitated, he would just hit his head, hit his head, hit his head. And they said he was probably having a headache. He couldn't tell me, Mommy, my head hurts. So now he's gotten much better, and when his stomach hurts, he hits his stomach, and my stomach, or he just, And at one point when someone was hurting him, he would just do like this, or just bang his head, or... So, you know, things are getting so much better, so much better. Jason is just a different child now. He's actually a young man now, just graduated from high school.
Yes. Tell us about the high school graduation.
My God, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It was about 8 graduates. And when Jason came out, he just started clapping, and all the family members were there. And, you know, it was bittersweet. It was bittersweet because Jason's been in school for most of his life. And when a child ages out of school, not just a child with autism, but any developmental disability, when they age out of school, we want them to go on to a higher education. Now, some persons with autism can go on to a higher education. Some of them can work. In my case, Jason is low-functioning autism, and he cannot hold down a job because his directive skills, and he does not focus long enough. So I would really like for him to go to a day facility, just like school again, but being around old, you know, people of his peers. But he has not been funded through the state. He has to be pulled from the funds list. So this is an issue that I've been working with different advocacy groups, going to Springfield, and actually talking to the state reps and the state senators, and I wrote a letter to Barack Obama as well. And
it'd be nice to get some high-profile attention to this.
Oh my goodness, it would really be nice. But you know, I advocate for so many people, and right now I'm doing some strong advocacy for myself.
We've got a call on the line. Good evening.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, I'm calling because there's a child. Hello, can you hear me?
Could you repeat the question, please?
My son has a child in his classroom. He have a disability, And, like, he runs around the classroom, throwing chairs and everything. What would you say about that?
Okay, we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing your question. Could you speak up a little bit and repeat your question, please?
Okay. My son have a boy in his classroom, and he have a disability. And he always run up to people and hit them and things, and my son don't know what to do to hit him or what. What would you do?
What's his disability?
I really don't know.
Well, let me ask you this question: Is your son in a mainstream program, or is he in a disability program? Does your son have a disability?
No, he don't.
Okay, so the boy that's in the classroom has a disability.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I would suggest that first of all, you go to the school and talk to the teacher with your son and the other boy, and it would really be great if you could bring in the boy's parent as well, and have the parent explain to your son that he has a disability. Now, I think that it's a lot of other factors involved with this, so if you can call me at 708-296-5651, I can help you resolve this problem.
Wow, I can't believe it's really you. Ray.
Yeah, so be sure you give her a call. Debra does a lot of work with parents.
Yes.
Hello, Debra.
Yes.
So where are you guys really located?
Well, our office is in Forest Park, Illinois, but if you're in the Chicagoland area, we can serve you.
Wow, okay, you can go to my MySpace.
Okay, would you leave your contact information with the producer in the control room, and Debra will get it after the show, and she will contact you. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Now, when a parent contacts your organization, what are some of the issues that they usually have?
Oh, we have issues from my son won't stop crying and I don't know what I want to do. I need somebody just to talk to because my husband has left me. I need a doctor to take my son to. I need a support group. I need a friend.
Oh.
And what makes our agency so unique is that we give them a one-on-one. We give them a personal touch. When Jason was diagnosed, I didn't have anyone to go to. And that's what really encouraged me to start this agency, because having a child with a disability, you cannot be in this alone. You can't. You have to have someone that is going through a like situation, because our family members, they love us. Our family members, our friends, they love us, but they don't understand.
That's right. They don't understand. We've got a caller on the line, so hold that thought. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. I am a teacher of a student with a delayed, cognitive delays. During his IEP evaluation, the specialist teacher who's a specialist and the autism specialist were going back and forth. And it seems to me that the special ed teacher was not accepting the fact that this child was autistic. Are you aware of the political issues around diagnosing a child with autism?
The political issues as to?
Yes.
Be a little bit more specific.
Okay, well, in the school system, they're not willing to label a child with autism. That's what I heard.
Oh, okay.
Are you aware of that? And if
yes,
so, why?
I am. Yes, I am. I'm aware of that. But you know what? There are several centers around the Chicagoland area that a parent can take their child from age 3 to 53 to be assessed and say that, okay, he has autism, she has autism, and then the school has to give those services for the child.
Okay.
Or even if the child has a doctor's diagnosis, the child has to be serviced. And especially if it's written or documented in the IEP, it has to be serviced. Your child has to be serviced.
Okay, so if the school system won't do it, there are other avenues.
Yes,
Okay.
advocacy avenues.
Advocacy avenues. And you could help them
Yes, I can.
locate those.
I can.
Okay.
The number is 708-296-5651.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Got a question for you. That got me to thinking. I just sort of been living in this non-autistic world thinking that, okay, there's a problem, the school's diagnosed it, but it's not that easy.
It's not that easy at all. It's a lot of children that have been misdiagnosed, that are in EMH classrooms, that are just lumped together. And a lot of it, I'm just going to tell the truth, is the parents. The parents are not advocating for their children. That's why an agency like mine is very important, because we teach you how to advocate for your
That's
child.
right, because parents may not know how.
Exactly. They don't know how. They don't know the questions to ask. They don't know who to go to ask the questions. And then when they get to the person to ask the questions, and if they know the right questions, they still get frustrated, because me, even as a parent, sometimes I have to get out of parent mode and go into advocate mode and say, okay, this is what's going to happen.
Okay. We've got a caller on the line. Good evening, caller.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, we're fine. You have a question for us?
I don't really have a question. I just want to commend both of you ladies. I do have an autistic child, and you really did answer my question. He's high functioning. He has Asperger's. He's 16 years old right now. He was diagnosed at the age of 3. But at the age of 3, he had pervasive developmental disorder. He also was diagnosed with delayed speech. Now, everything you said earlier about the not talking and all that, that's really true. But I've watched him grow into a fine young man.
Good for you.
I didn't have anybody to talk to either, because my mother is the one that noticed at the age of 3. Something's just not right. But I did say, well, he just really don't have anything to talk about. But that's when we found out about the delayed speech. But as he grew, right now he's a sophomore in high school. He goes to a CPS school, and he has a terrific counselor that really advocates. They tried to just stick him into one of them programs.
Oh, that's wonderful.
With all the learning. So, and I don't take that away from him, because he brings me good grades. He does anything I ask him to do. My biggest fear is him getting out there in the world when he does get 21. Get a little older.
It's one suggestion that I would make to you is don't let him isolate so much in with the games. It's good that he can play the games, but it's up to you now to try to get him more into relationships with friends, because he wants to go to college. So it's up to you now to push him out there. But you're doing a good job. Good for you.
Thank you.
Okay, now, that's a different story, but her child has Asperger's, right, that we talked about earlier. Asperger's, that's a high-functioning child that tends to do more isolation. So I'd like to talk about some of the ways to get that child into more relationships and become more interactive. But we've got another caller on the line.
Okay.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to Jay Stones, Romita, everybody. Love y'all both.
Thank you. Now,
all right.
So how do you get this child to become more interactive?
Well, at our group, the 4th Monday of every month, our support group, a lot of the parents bring their children. We encourage you to bring their children, and those children have developed relationships. Okay. Now, it's about 5 children in our group with Asperger's, and a lot of times they just wanted to just sit by themselves, and since they've been coming to the group, they've interacted more. So I would suggest that a parent start slow.
Okay.
Get a play date with someone from his school, even if they playing a game together, at least he's with someone else instead of interacting with just the television.
Okay.
And then conversation will lead from there, even if it's just one word or two. They'll be saying something to each other instead of just isolating with a TV.
Okay. We've got another caller on the line. Hello? Technical difficulty. Okay, so it's not important that they say a lot, just that they're sharing their space, getting used to the idea that there's someone else around.
Exactly.
And then they eventually begin to develop relationships.
Right, be able to develop relationships, because there was one boy in our group that didn't even want to come in the door. And this was at the dance just actually last Saturday, and he didn't want to come in. He was just very adamant about not wanting to come in, and he has Asperger's as well. And so I talked to him, and I danced with him, and I just really just coddled him. And the next thing you know, he was dancing with someone else. And his mother said she had never seen that behavior in him before. So sometimes you just have to kind of just take the rein and just say, okay, this is what you're going to do. Because when we have, being a parent of a child with a disability, you have a tendency to coddle them even more. But that's when you have to be the most stern, because Jason knows that I do not play. Everybody, everybody in the community, why are you so tough on him, Deborah? But I have to be. I have to be.
Now, we were talking earlier about places you could go, getting your child diagnosed. Is it good to get more than one opinion?
It is.
Okay.
It's good to get more than one opinion, because a lot of different agencies have more than one resource. A lot of doctors will say, okay, this is what you do, and then they want to give you the magic pill that they think is going to be okay, and then you go ahead on. But then you'll go to another doctor that'll just really give you that personal touch in that good bedside manner. So you go to a facility that, once you get the diagnosis, is this what you're speaking of? Once you get the diagnosis, make sure that you have a doctor that you feel really, really comfortable with, and that your child feels comfortable with as well. Because as your child grows and as your child progresses, the doctor will be able to see it. Because every time I take Jason to the doctor, his doctor interacts with him. The nurses interact with him, because it's a village of trying to get your child where he needs to be. It's just like even raising a typical child. The next door neighbor hopefully will look out for your baby, and as your baby grows, when they're going around the corner the wrong way, they're on the telephone. Little Jack is around the corner, but with a child with autism, you know, Aunt Stephanie is calling and saying, oh, hi, Jason, how you doing? Or the doctor is saying, it's Jason's birthday, let me talk to him. You try to get a relationship with as many people in your child's life as you can.
Now, how are parents, other family members, able to help parents with autistic children? Because this is a 24/7 responsibility.
Well, you know, in my family,
in other words, you can't sleep late.
No, no, it's no sleeping late. Sometimes it's no sleeping. But you know, in my family members lived on the other side of town, so it was basically my husband and myself. And not even with friends. My friends loved Jason, but at some point, a lot of people were afraid of him because of the things that he used to do with himself. And they never told me this, but I know it. A lot of people were afraid of something that they don't understand. So what I do now is I educate not just my friends and my family members, but the entire community. I take them to the grocery stores. I take them everywhere with me, so that if he does act out, which he doesn't do anymore, but when he was acting out, I would explain to them. And so now, the man at the corner store, he told me, he said, you know what, a lady came in with a son just like yours the other day. Let me get some information so I give it to her. So if you make the family members and the community and the library and the grocery store, if you make everyone aware of what this disability is, everybody can get together and just make everybody's life happy.
Now, is it as simple as, hi, I'd like for you to meet Jason. Jason is autistic.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Usually when I introduce Jason to people, you know, after they shake his hand and he doesn't say anything back, I say, well, he has autism. And then I can see it in their face, well, what is autism? But autism has been on the news so much, but people really don't know what the definition is really so long. And I just try to break it down to him as simple as I can. He understands what you're saying. He just not want to respond. That's all. He understands everything. Go in the refrigerator, microwave hot dogs. Everything.
Okay. Now, after we've educated your friends and your family members and everyone now knows, it's still got to be just an awful, I guess, draw on your energy. Like I said, you can't sleep late.
Yes, it is. You know, Stephanie, sometimes
You don't get to go out.
I have a lot of moments, and you know, right now, I would say in the last couple of years, my husband and I have just started to date again, and Jason will be 22 in September. We could not get babysitters. We could not get. We had a respite worker, but I was just so, you know, I didn't want nobody else to watch him. I didn't think nobody could do it like me.
Okay.
I didn't want to trust anybody because he wasn't verbal. You know, you have typical children that are abused, and they are afraid to tell.
That's right, and they're verbal.
Exactly. Right. So I was afraid, but you know what? I decided to just let go. And now he goes to a weekend respite facility at Seguin Services, which I am the marketing director for them as well.
Okay.
And he goes to the house at least every other week, and he's developed friendships. And he doesn't really talk much, but he's very expressive. So when we pull up to the house, he's laughing, and he has his own room, and it's just a beautiful facility. And it's given my husband and I a chance to rekindle a relationship that had really once got lost with just being involved with just Jason. Everything was revolved around Jason. So, and sometimes I do too, still have my moments of, oh my goodness, just like when I was at his graduation, I was thinking, you know, my child can't go to college. You know, my child, I'm not going to have any grandchildren. My son is going to be with me the rest of my life. I mean, sometimes I do have those oh, hope, me moments, but I snap back and say, okay, keep it moving.
Keep it moving. That's right, keep it moving. We've got a caller on the line.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Please call back. I know you. Keep it moving.
Right.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. And even my husband, speaking of my husband, he did not even accept the fact that we had a child with autism until Jason was about maybe 12. And one day he woke up and he said, my son got autism. My son can't play football like everybody else. My son can't just sit down and just kick it with me when he get grown. You know, but now we accept it for what it is, and we do things differently. We do things on Jason's level, but on our level, kind of midstream, you know, and we just do it. We just do it.
That is fantastic.
You know, I'm going to tell you something. Children with autism, they teach you a whole different level of love.
Oh, let's talk about that.
They do.
Let's talk about that. We've got a caller on the line, and we're going to come back and talk about the level of love.
Hello?
Hi.
Oh, hi. Great show. I had a question because you mentioned abuse prior. My brother and sister-in-law recently went through a divorce, and during the time before final custody was decided, my brother got final custody. The grandmother on the mother's side really didn't understand how to deal with him and was very abusive. Now, this is a child that's low functioning, but was always very, you know, loving and hugging. And if you said go to bed, you know, he was like any other kid. He'd like try to stay up a little bit, but he'd go to bed. You know, never did anything bad. He's come back, and he was very abusive to himself. You know, like biting his arms, slamming his head up against things. He never did any of this before. He's 13, and it seemed like his development went back before he was interested in at least trying to speak, because he has smaller brothers and sisters that were learning how to speak. So he was trying to keep up, you know, words that he'd stopped using from the time he was about 4. He was trying to, you know, speak again, paying more attention to using his sign language and everything, communicating. And I'm wondering, after a situation like that, is him going backwards permanent? I'm his uncle, so I'm just, you know, worried because I'm somewhat outside the situation, but I've just been noticing that he's really gone backwards.
You know what, first of all, I would like to commend you for even noticing a change in your nephew. Our children are very sensitive to what's going on around them. And so when it's a change, even in him just going back and forth to the different households, that's called getting off task. And when a child with autism, because they're very structural, very structural, very on task, and when something is changed in their life, be it a diet, going from Aunt Deborah's house to Aunt Stephanie's house, and it was not all the time, they exhibit their emotions in different ways. Now, I'm not going to say just because he started biting himself and hitting his head that he was getting abused. But being his uncle, you do have a say-so in his life, so I would, you know, just really look into it a little bit further. It might even been a change in his diet. You know, he might have been getting more sugar, might have been getting more Pepsi, more,
That's true.
you know, so, you know, you can't just all the time say that is abuse, because our children, like I said, are so structural and on task. When it's a change in their life, they'll let you know that they don't like it.
Okay.
And sometimes when they don't like something, it's abusive to them.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
I was
Thank you for calling.
concerned about it, and the grandmother didn't know how to handle it, and she sees it. She's seen him since he was born as, you know, being a problem instead of, you know, he's just a gift, you know.
What's your name again?
Abilities. Oh, excuse me?
What's your name?
Oh, Tom.
My husband has a men's group that meets the first Saturday of every month. And this is not just for fathers, but it's for all family members that just want to be able to talk about things that you just discussed.
Oh, great.
So you can reach him at 708-296-5651, or go to the website at www.theanswerinc.org, and all the information is on there. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good day.
You too.
Goodbye.
Thank you for calling. Now let's get back to talking about the level of love, because I believe that our society has things happen in it, that there are disabilities, so that we can learn to be more compassionate, that we can really, really learn what love is about. And let's talk about that.
Our
Folks,
children.
you're a hot topic tonight. We've got another caller on the line. Good evening.
And hello, how you doing?
We're wonderful. Hi.
And my name is John, and I don't know what the subject you're going to just turn the TV on.
Autism.
Autism?
Yes.
That's articulated kids. Kids
Well,
that have functions that not in the norm. Is that what that is?
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. That would be the short answer. That would be the short answer.
Do you have someone in your family with a disability?
What are you trying to derive or
It's okay.
come to?
Well, would you like to know the definition of autism?
Well, you can put it out there. I think I know what it is, but just put it out there.
Okay. Autism is a developmental disability that affects socialization skills or behavior skills. It ranges from mild to high functioning, which would be Asperger's. And if you have any more questions, you can call me at 708-296-5651.
Thank you. Now, back to the level of love and compassion.
You know, every time I think about Jason, I just get so bubbly, because he wakes up in the morning smiling. He does not know hate. He does not know I'm mad at you, so I want to beat you up. None of that. The kisses. Do I have any makeup on my face? He just kissed me before we came in here. When he kisses me, he wipes it off, so it's just like he doesn't want to spit on my face. But he's just loving, and you know, my husband would actually be the person to just. He said that Jason taught him how to love. Jason taught him that, because he was so angry that Jason had autism, and then one day he said, "But if Jason didn't have it, someone else would." So he just started looking at love at a whole different level. And you know, Jason teaches me appreciation, because I mean, when he's eating, he's just I mean, just happy about just everything. So I'm telling you, the level of love that they have is just never mad. I can't remember the last time Jason cried. I'm serious.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember. I'm sorry, I take that back. All the children were crying, the ones that were more high functioning at the graduation. And he did shed a couple of tears. Now, I don't know why he was crying. I think he might have been crying because everybody else
was crying. He got caught up in the moment.
Yeah, because he was just clapping like, you know, he didn't know that he wasn't coming back to school the next day. He didn't know that.
Okay.
So it's been a couple of challenges in our household as well, because although Jason does like to sleep, but since he's gotten up the last couple of days, he look around like, okay, something is different. I'm not at school no more, so, you know, but the love is there. Love is, I'm telling you. Actually, he's even brought, I've been married for 28 years.
Okay.
And the level of love that Jason brings to our household, because sometimes I want to be mad. I do. I just want to be mad. And Jason will come and just hug me and kiss me, and I'm like, okay, fam. I'm not going to
Can't be mad. Keep it pushing.
I just gave it to it. So, yeah, it's wonderful, though.
We've got another caller on the line. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I was turning the channel like the previous caller and just happened to see your show, and I heard her talking, and I stopped to listen, and I'm glad I did. I'm the mother of a 10-year-old autistic child, and in the beginning we didn't know what it was because it's such a mystery. And he developed normally, and then he reached this point where he just stopped. And it seems like a de-evolution, for lack of a better term. And nobody understood it. And it was so hard to get people to understand, like, if he's outside and they have episodes. Because, like she said, changes, it was so hard to take him outside. And, but I wanted him to be able to go outside, not be stuck inside. And then he became nonverbal. But I have been fortunate that I had some great people to work with me. He can talk to me now. He can tell me what his needs are. And I was actually holding, because I was going to ask about a support group for my older son who helps me with him. And I missed the number, so I need to get the number again. And I don't mean to cry, but it's just...
It's okay.
It's okay.
Because I'm about to cry, too.
And listening to you when you were talking about how much love, she is so right. They are the sweetest things in the world. You just have to understand, us as a society expect things a certain way. And it doesn't work like that all the time. And he just came in here, and he read me a story. And we had a meeting at school recently because he's being promoted to the next grade. And his teacher was upset because he's an inclusive, that he didn't know how to tie his shoes. And I explained to her, I'm like, I understand on your list, this may be high priority, but the fact that my child can communicate to me and that he can articulate and that he can do his classwork and that he scored higher than the kids in his classroom, and he has a disability. It's more important to me than him knowing how to tie his shoes. So I'm like, I will work on that, but I'm honest, that wasn't high on my list. We separated because his father couldn't handle it. And I was left to deal with this by myself, and no one else's child is like this, so they couldn't understand what I was going through. And it was just so hard, but his pediatrician has been his pediatrician since he was 2 weeks old. She's very supportive, and, she put us in touch with the right people, and it's very important to get the early intervention when you think something is wrong, and to have a doctor who listens to you. She got my baby in there right away. We did testing, and she was like, okay, this is what you need to do, and we were working with his phonics, and the first time that your child says something to you, more than a one-word or two-word sentence, and he speaks to you, it is so wonderful. It really is.
I am so glad that you called. Are you a part of a support group?
No, I really need to.
I would love for you to come to our support group and tell that story. Please come. Actually, just go to the website at www.
Let me get a pen right
Okay.
Because I didn't have a pen. Like I said, I was just turning the channel, and I look at it on occasion, to see what's on, and I didn't even know what it was about. I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on. And when I heard you describe it, I knew what it was.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what it was. I'm like, oh yeah, and it's a spectrum, and since he's at the higher end, so now when people see him and they hear him talking, they don't understand. I'm like, no, we still have struggles.
But your story is such an inspiration, even to me, with my son being 21 years old. And I have checklists for him as well, but I don't beat myself up about it like I used to.
Yeah.
It's certain things that I would not tolerate with Jason because I know he knows better.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't just push him because some things, he can sing any song on the radio, but to actually get some conversation out of him, but sometimes he'll just up and say, "Good morning, Mama," out of the blue. So I know exactly what you mean when you say any word. Any word is a good word. Any word is. But go ahead.
Okay, the website is
www.theanswerinc.org.
www.theanswerinc.org.
INC.org.
Theanswerinc.org.
Yes.
I wrote it down. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you for calling.
People, because that's what I do. And I only had one episode when he was nonverbal, and he was in preschool. And he was going from his preschool to a CPS setting to get the things that he needed. And I knew something was wrong because because it changed his behavior. And he loved to go to school, to the preschool. But when it came time for him to go to school, he did not want to go. I mean, to the point where he would stop at the door and hold on to the building. So I'm like, something happened. We need to find out what's going on. And I went up there, and I'm like, it was a situation that had happened. I'm like, he couldn't tell me, which was your biggest fear. Like she said, you don't want to go anywhere if your child can't tell you what's wrong with you.
That's right. You want to keep them right with you.
Actually, I know I was. My grandmother, we couldn't go with anybody unless we could speak. But she needs to be able to know whatever happened, you have to be able to tell her, to articulate. Well, he couldn't. So we had to figure out and put it together and piece it together. But we were able to get through that. And now, when I come in, Mom, Anthony did this. Mom, Anthony did that. And it's just wonderful just to see the growth and to see that all your hard work is not in vain. And you talked about him graduating high school. And people don't understand that's a lifelong commitment.
Well, kudos to you, honey. Kudos to you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Have a great day.
You too.
We've got another caller on the line. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi. I have a son that's 5 that has autism, and you were just talking about the love that they give. And I wanted to comment on my son. For the longest, he couldn't talk, and we didn't know what was going on. We kind of caught it late. And now he's talking. And one of the things I used to do was always, we would say our prayers together. And I said our prayers one time. He picked up right away. So now what we do is we allow him to lead each night. And I have him to lay hands on his sister and pray for her.
See, I just got goosebumps.
I have her to lay hands on him and pray for him. And they really look forward to it. And now they both lay hands on me, which is, it just means so much to me. He is such a blessing. And the thing is, people tend to always focus on, like, what's wrong with them, but they are so talented. He loves computers. And he goes through the website, and he goes to different games, and it's just amazing. Because I'm not good on computers at all. But he just picks that sort of thing up just right away. No problem.
Have him teach you.
That's right. Have him teach you.
That's a wonderful story.
I have watched him. I mean, but he comes up with them like, how did he get here? And he can go right back to it. You know, he's just wonderful. He really is. I'm just presently now getting him into another school that just opened.
Okay.
And they really are focusing on children with autism. It's not autism school, but they have specialists in the classes.
That's
and
great.
That's really going to be helpful because they also going to offer things like instruments, which he really likes.
That is wonderful.
Another thing that he really does is any tapes or anything, he mimics.
Okay.
So it's like we would do little dialogues. He would say one part of a part, and he would actually act it out. And I'll say the other line to it, and we'll do this even when he's visiting his father. He'll get on the phone, and I'll say a part of a movie, and he'll say the other part, and we'll do it back and forth. That's our little thing.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Cool.
So you know what you said, the things that are happening for your son at school, but what are you doing for yourself as far as a support group? Do you have a support system for yourself? Because that's very important. That is
it is,
very
and
important.
I really would like it because I really would like for him to get into something physical, some type of physical activity also.
Okay,
and,
no. I'm speaking of support for you.
I really simply, church and God.
Okay.
But
well, I
would
want
like
you to
else.
give Debra, contact Debra at theanswerinc.org, www.theanswerinc.org. They have activities for the kids
Yes, we do.
and for the adults. And I think both you and your child will enjoy those.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the story, though.
Wonderful
It's
story.
Heartwarming. Now, my goddaughter I have an autistic goddaughter who's 18 years old now. And she doesn't speak, but she can sign. And one of my fondest stories is she was learning to sign. Of course, I wasn't learning to sign. And we were in the Walgreens, and we were looking at candy, and all of a sudden she started to tell me she had to go to the bathroom. I missed all that, okay? So finally, she pulled me
to the bathroom.
Let's go. And I finally dawned on me. I said, but the stares of the people in the store were just unforgivable, right? So I leaned down and I said, baby, we're surrounded by people with problems. Let's go.
Let's go. You know what? The older that our children get, the more challenging it is because when they were little, it's cute when they fall out or one thing or another, or even pulling you to go to the bathroom. That's cute. But as our children get to be adults, I mean, Jason has mustache, beard, tall, you know, statuette and everything.
He does.
When
6 feet tall.
Yeah, when he does something that's not typical, people, because when he walks into a room, you can't tell that there's anything different about him. So say, for instance, we're walking down the street and there's a couple of young guys and Jason just walks through them and they're like, man, what's, you know. So, oh boy, here we go. I got to explain the autism to the young people, but that leads me to another program that we're doing within the answer is going into the schools, teaching the signs and symptoms with the younger children and teenagers. And even with the last dance that we had, we partnered with an organization called Maywood Youth Mentoring. And they brought out about 25 youth, and this is the second dance that they came to. They had so much fun being with our children, and they even apologized to me for laughing at our children with disabilities. They said, you know what, we didn't know. They have fun just like we do. They just like we are. So we teach an inclusion.
Okay.
We're teaching inclusion so that a typical child can know that it's not nice to laugh at someone with autism. And as that child becomes an adult, it's being instilled in them. So when you see adults not treating people with a disability right, it was something they did as a kid. They don't know no better. So that's what we're doing. We're going into the police departments, teaching the signs and symptoms, because I know you heard in the news about the boy with autism that got hit by the policeman. This was a couple of months ago. It had just been to a training at Easter Seals, but it didn't sink in. The boy was standing outside his parents' restaurant. He ran, so the police ran after him. Not knowing what was going on, just ran after him. The boy didn't know to stop. He was just running. He was scared. Police stopped, beat him with the billy club. He had stitches and everything. So we're teaching about the signs and symptoms with the police department so that they will know when they see a child that's doing something a little bit different, a boy that's just standing on the corner, and it's something just a little bit different about him. He might have on the hip-hop clothes and everything and look just as normal as you and I. But if you wait just a little bit longer, you're going to see a sign of autism.
That is so true. For the viewers at home, remember this is a call-in show. The number is 312-738-1845. Please call in with your comments or your questions. This has been an incredibly interesting discussion.
It has.
And I think it's discussions like this we need to have more often. As I know sometimes even adults, we could be driving down the street and you see just kids standing there and you hear so many people say, why are those kids just hanging out? You just don't know, because they could just be. Or
you see a woman walking down the street holding a grown man's hand.
Right.
And you wonder, is that her boyfriend? Or is something wrong with him?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because a lady asked me one day, she said, oh my goodness, she said, your boyfriend is so cute. It was my son. It was Jason, because I was holding his hand walking down the street. But if she'd have stood there a little bit longer, she would have known that it was something different about him. So I would just advise the public to pick up anything that you can read about autism, call and answer. We'll tell you. Come to an event. You know, we have a gala coming up, actually, August 8th. And it's going to be, September 20th.
Okay.
And it's going to be facilitated by our children, because we have children that sing. We have a boy in our group that sings just like Chris Brown.
All right.
We're going to have we have a boy in our group that reads tremendously. He's going to do the welcome. We're going to have the other ones that are low functioners to just escort people in. We want people to know that our children don't bite. They love. They happy. You know, so, and from this gala, we're actually raising funds for an after-school music program that we would like to start in January, focusing on the different ethnic backgrounds of music, be it African-American music, Latino music, Caribbean music, and we're going to have the different bongos and the drums and then we're going to use headphones and iPods for the children that don't want to do the banging.
Okay.
And for some children, just like the woman that just called, whose child can use the internet, we're going to let them download music. So we actually need funding for this. So if anyone's listening and want to throw some money to answer way, we could truly use it for this program that is so needed, because in the Proviso Township, resources and support is very, very little. That's one reason why I started the agency. And, you know, we could really use a lot of support. So.
Now, we're just about out of time, so let's go over some of the symptoms again so the parents who've just turned in, or just any of the caregivers or family members can know what signs to look for so that we can get parents and families to go for early detection.
Okay, the signs that you would need to look for, especially in an early baby, is blank stares, and if they can pick up objects, constant spinning, or turning around, just spinning themselves, head banging, pulling, not paying any attention, not focusing, and a child that was verbal, echolalia, repetitive speech, or just really, really bad behavior that you just don't understand, something that's just totally out of the norm, go get your child tested.
Okay. I remember I was on a plane once, and there was a family there who had a small child that was just crying, but it wasn't, it was like a sick kind of cry, and I said, I bet that child has autism. And afterwards, the mother was really frazzled, so I went over to help her with her luggage and stuff, and she says, oh, thank you, I don't know what I was going to do. My son is autistic. She says, and some of the things people have said have just been so cool.
Now, see, what you did, that's an encouragement for someone else, because a lot of times I would see women in the grocery stores, and they would have their child with them, because we don't have the benefit of a lot of help.
Right.
So we have to take our babies to the store with us, and a lot of times there's too much for them in the stores, and so the sounds and things just really, and that's another sign, sirens. Sirens just really irritate our children, some of them. Jason has really adapted, but he would hold his ears a lot, and babies crying. They don't like to hear babies crying, but if you see someone in the store, help them. Help them. Give them some encouragement, not sympathy, a little empathy.
Right. Right. Give them a little love.
Little love.
That's right. I want to thank you, Deborah, for joining
me
tonight.
You.
It has been we had such a good
Yes,
time.
we do. Yes, we do.
We'll have to do this regularly.
Absolutely.
I am just committed to the autism cause. I want to thank the viewers at home for joining me tonight again with a sip of inspiration as we discussed autism, its detection, and its treatment. I want to encourage everyone to take a little bit of what we talked about, the love part.
The love.
And I want you to just today go forth and just concentrate on all of the great things that are happening in your life. And remember to love, that no matter what's going on, it could be worse. Okay?
Absolutely.
So find something to be happy about.
Yes.
And as Deborah says, when you want to get stuck in there, just snap out of it and just keep it pushing, keep it pushing, keep it pushing. Again, this has been a Sip of Inspiration. I'm Stephanie Wilson-Coleman. I'm your host, and I want to encourage you to live the life you have imagined. Dream big. Until next time, life is too short for anything that you think you need a lot of.
There was a message in his melody, sweetest lyrics that I ever heard. There's a message in the songs of birds. Tomorrow is another day. Living is the only way. Tomorrow's gonna ever come. Listen to the words of the song. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be. Now the trees sang the song to me. He said the birds sang it to the breeze. Just in case I was feeling down and didn't really want to be around. He said the breeze sometimes come with rain, but nothing in life stays the same. Tomorrow's gonna bring a change.